television has already included one of my talk, and that is for 2 hours. But that is recorded one. And it is not just a kind of process, guideline you will have to follow. It is completely a process of learning. And it all depends based on your effort, your passion, your love, not only for doing research, because there are many people around the globe in many industry, many R&D organizations, they're producing wonderful works, wonderful results. But how many can write, report their works, share their works with their peer group, their friends, their colleagues worldwide? So this is really one art, that how efficiently, how professionally you can share your works, your research results, your findings, your observations with your co-researchers in your field. So there is no boundary. It is not for your community only, not your country only, your state only. It is for the whole world. That is, people can access from any corner of the world and they can get it quickly. That's why, and it will be recorded permanently. একবার লেখা হয়ে গেলে, পাবলিশড হয়ে গেলে, এটা কিন্তু কেউ আর মুছে ফেলতে পারবে না। So there are several ethical parts. It has to be authentic, has to be true, real, verified. So these are the technical aspects, but you people are mostly interested how to write paper. Anyway, so definitely I'm going to share a few things with you, and I have chosen one aspect that is not really relating to paper writing, but successful publishing of your work. Okay, so do you have anyone else? Do you have any other expectation or demand or question?
If anyone have any question, then you can also ask, or you can write in the chat box also. And Professor Devotos sir, I request you that I need to announce 2 things. Just
please go ahead
before starting your lecture. So first of all, a very good evening to our respected Dean of Faculty and HOD of CSE IEM Kolkata, Professor Dr. Muma Chakraborty Madam. I hope, yeah, I am also visible, I hope. Yeah. And the eminent speaker we have today with us, Professor Dr. Devotos Guho sir, and my fellow colleagues. So welcome to day 4 of 5-day FDP on how to write a good research paper. Myself, Sumanta Chakraborty, Assistant Professor of CSE IEM Kolkata. Today we have Professor Dr. Dorothy Sarkar as the rapporteur. And as you all know that today there will be 2 sessions, 2 back-to-back sessions. The first session is from 8 to 9 p.m. and the next session will be by a foreign faculty, Professor Dr. Bob Gill, from 9 to 10 p.m. But before handing the session over to Professor Dr. Dorothy Madam, I would like to request you all to kindly keep the attendances in the chat box. Just a minute, I am giving the attendance template. Please follow it. Yeah, I have written it. The format is same. Your name, department, IMK or UMK or UMJ _ institutional mail ID. If you do not have your institutional mail ID, then you can give your personal one. And since attendance is also mandatory thing, so now I don't want to waste much time. So now over to Professor Dr. Dorothy Madam.
Thank you, Shumanto sir.
Thank
Hope I am audible.
you. Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, a very good evening to one and all present here. On behalf of HRDC, Institute of Engineering and Management, Kolkata, I, Dorothy Sharkar, welcome you all to the fourth day of Faculty Development Program on how to write good research paper. Today, we are having Professor Dr. Debatosh Guho among us. Professor Dr. Debatosh Guho is an Indian antenna researcher. He is a professor in the Institute of Radio Physics and Electronics at the Rajabaja Science College, University of Calcutta. He also served Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur as a HAL chair professor for a period during 2015 to 2016. At University of Calcutta, he has been a department head and director of the Center for Research in Nanoscience and Nanotechnology. He has been selected for Abdul Kalam Technology
Excuse me,
Innovation.
excuse
Uh,
me.
yes, sir.
So would you please shortcut this one because it is not beneficial for the attendees. Rather
Oh,
more important what I'm going to tell them.
okay, sir, definitely.
Okay?
So, this is the last thing, sir.
Yes, please.
He
Quickly.
has been selected for Abdul Kalam Technology Innovation National Fellowship in 2020 and was elected a fellow of IEEE in 2017. So, without much delay, I request you, sir, to please enlighten us on how to write the research paper.
Thank you, thank you.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. No need to waste much time because I'm not that great person. So
Okay,
it
sir,
is
thank
it is
you.
okay. So I'm going to share my slide. Is it showing up on your screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you can see it, right?
Yes, sir.
So I'm closing my video for better bandwidth. Well, my actual talk was the art of writing, but when I saw there so many people are addressing the art of writing, so I thought to shift a little bit to focus on the how do you defend your reviewers. So one part is writing, and the other part is how do you defend. Okay, so we have few minutes, 50 minutes in hand. I'm trying to go very quickly. And if you have any question, you keep a note or you can stop me and ask. Uh, I cannot move the screen. Why not? I don't know. You are screen sharing and I'm sharing. I don't know. It is not working. What's happened? That is a problem with Zoom.
Okay, sir, we are waiting. No problem.
So what's how to do it? Should I? It is
You can restart.
stop sharing,
Yes, yes.
then again share. This is the first time I'm saying this one. I don't know why it is.
No problem, sir. You can reshare it also.
Yeah, can you see right now?
Yes, yes, yes. It's fine now.
It is fine. Okay, but that is not good for me. So I need to make it in presentation mode.
Mm.
Yes, now it is working.
Yes.
Now it is working. Well, so the most important part that we should not ignore, that you write a paper for whom? You have the options to think that I'm writing for my reviewers, I'm writing for my readers, or for myself, that is yourself. Definitely, you are not writing paper for yourself. So you may think that you are writing it for the readers. But that is also not true. Because it will come to the readers, it will appear to the readers after you cross the barriers of reviewers. So you are writing the papers. When you are writing, you should keep in mind that who are your reviewers. The reviewers are from your peer group mostly. There may be few veteran people, maybe few youngsters or young researchers. So different age group people, they are your probable reviewers. So it is not your control, it's not your hand. That's why during writing the paper, there are several aspects and several considerations you have to follow. So anyway, so what is very important that you have to be logical. Logical, systematic, and don't do any mistake or careless mistake, and you have to be precise. Don't make things elaborate, repeated, boring. That is not going to help you. So, but our story today is after you submit. So I'm not considering the writing of paper, but after you submit, or truly after you receive the decision, that is, the review comments come back to you. So that is very important. And normally our situation is like that. After we receive the review comments, in most of the cases or majority cases are like this, the paper is rejected. Okay, so rejection of paper is a part of our life, so we cannot avoid it. Question is, if it is rejected, you read it and accept it, that there are several reasons, sufficient reasons that it is rejected. And then you can identify, you can feel what are the weaknesses in your manuscript. But it may be like this, that you don't agree with the decision or the review comments. Then the process is, you need to write to the editor-in-chief, that is called rebuttal. That means you don't agree with the review comments, but you have considered their comments, you have revised it, and you will focus the areas where the reviewers are not correct in your cover letter, and you'll be going to resubmit your paper. So that is the process. Or there may be another situation that the paper or the decision came as revision or major revision. Then to the experienced author, it is like a party time, that it is half accepted and you need to take care of few things, and there is very good possibility of accepting your paper in the next cycle of review. So it is really very encouraging and very, very enjoyable time for any researcher. Now your main duty is to read the review reports very carefully, word by word and in between lines. That means what is reviewer's mind, what he is trying to say, So you need to read it very carefully, and that's why there are few helpful tips for you. It is based on my experience, I have seen that whenever we start reading the review comments, the first review does not help you. So multiple times reading is very important. But when you are reading any review comment, very few lines are really appreciation or enchanting. So most of the lines are criticism. Actually, reviewers' primary duty is not to praise you. Reviewer's duty is to find out your flaws, your weaknesses, so that you can improve your work or manuscript and make a useful document for the future. So review comments, when you will be reading, don't get disappointed because it is mostly criticism. Nor you get angry. It is a very, very common symptom of authors that they get angry. So you should not be disappointed, should not be angry, and keep your head cool. Because the criticism, we never can accept any criticism in a right spirit. So whenever I write my editorial decision as associate editor, I always keep in mind and I try to convince the authors, if it is rejected, if I write rejection, I try to write in a very decent and graceful way so that he or she does not get disappointed, because criticism is a part of your work and it is done by your peer group. Then read the comments slowly and multiple times with patience. I have seen, it is particularly in my case, the first reading, when I'm giving first reading, I cannot really understand what is revealed, what is actual sense of the criticism. So read it repeatedly, and it will be clear gradually. Consider your reviewer an expert. Maybe very, very few cases the reviewers are very novice or new, but in most of the cases, they may differ from your view, but still you should honor their view because they are expert in this field and they are like you. And it is also remember that he or she, that means the reviewer, is sharing some doubt and helping you to improve. They are not paid for review, but still they are giving time and they're helping you. They are not your enemy. So always accept the reviewers and reviewers' comment in a right and very positive spirit. Then what you need to do, so you follow this basic tips and start writing your author's reply. That is, after you write your paper, at the second phase, it is the most important document you need to prepare, based on which your paper will be accepted or rejected at the final cycle. So author's reply has to be very authentic document from your side. Very clear, very authentic, and useful. Normally what I do, that I'm saying, parallelly, I revise the paper, because when I'm addressing the reviewer's comment, against each comment, I'm writing my answer or my reply. And when I am replying these questions or points, definitely there will be some points that I am going to revise in my manuscript. So parallelly I revise that part, and it is also a thumb rule that any kind of change in the text, any kind of new additions in the text, what you do, that has to be highlighted. And normally it is called use red. So nowadays it is just to mark it and change the color to red. It is on the manuscript I'm talking about. So this makes your life easy because parallelly, when you are addressing the review comments, you are writing your reply, and parallelly you are revising this. It is the first hand or first time, first cycle approach, but you will have to go through repeatedly in both documents to make it final. Then you need to address, it is very important, all points you agree or disagree. That is reviewer. Suppose you are addressing reviewer 1. Reviewer 1 has 12 points. In some points he is agreeing. In some points he is disagreeing. In some points he is criticizing. But every point you should respond to his or her view in a required fashion, either in one sentence or in multiple sentences like this. But don't leave any point untouched. Huge patience is required. Never do hurry in writing a reply. If you really get tired, you should not write on that sitting. I would suggest you to take much time, more patience, and then you write. And if you don't like writing, you don't write. But when you write it, you should be very patient. And this is also one tip from my side. I never write directly to the reviewer that thank you, you are writing this, it is very good, I am responding to. No. It is better to address always editor-in-chief and not directly to reviewer. That means when you are replying, thanks the reviewer. The reviewer is correct. The reviewer is right. Something like that. So not directly to the reviewer. Why? Because this will give you the scope of little bit criticizing the reviewer. I'm coming to this point later on. It is also another aspect that how to handle if you do not agree with the reviewer or the reviewer is wrong. You're clearly understanding or feeling that your reviewer is wrong. And this is not at all any unusual case. Everyone is human being. Today I am the author and you are the reviewer. Next time you are the author and I am the reviewer. And I may not have domain knowledge or that much knowledge in that area, but I am your reviewer. So there is every possibility of making a statement which is not acceptable and which is wrong. It is obvious and it is happening. So what to do? As author, your duty is to respect the reviewer always. You should be very polite and graceful. Even the reviewer is wrong, you should not tell that you are wrong. Never use any word which indicates the reviewer is wrong. It is very important. Rather, you need to write in a different way. I'm showing few examples that you can understand, that don't say that it is wrong, but there are techniques, several ways you can handle it. So you need to handle your disappointment, but in a smiling mood, you need to tell what you want to say. So you can write in that fashion, that it might be due to some misunderstanding, or the reviewer might have overlooked. However, we are trying to revise or address this in an elaborate way, something like this. That means you are indicating that there is some misunderstanding from reviewer's point of view, or the reviewer has overlooked. Or you can write that in this point we beg to differ. We are confident enough. You are not attacking the reviewer, but you are very firm in stating your point, that in this point we beg to differ. We are confident enough. This thing. So you need to explain in that way. Or you can write in that way that yes, we understand the point raised by the reviewer, but we still believe that. That means you are going to ignore what a reviewer has not ignored. You are not going to accept the reviewer's view. So you can write in this way, that well, we understand the reviewer is saying like that, but we believe that, or we still believe that this thing. Then the reviewer will understand that he did some mistake, and he will then again reconsider or read the manuscript, read your work in the second cycle in a very careful way. So I'm just showing the ways you can express your point that you are disagreeing. And I'm showing one example, that never ignore any review comment. It is a common tendency I have seen amongst many authors. If they are comfortable to reply, they do. And in many questions, they're not comfortable enough, they're not confident enough, and they just ignore. I'm just showing one of my comments. You see, it is the real comment I'm showing you, and then you can understand what is what. As a reviewer, as associate editor, I'm always sympathetic, rather more sympathetic than any other associate editor I have seen. I always give priority to the authors because it is their creation. You read it. You read it. I'm reading it, you just say. It is my final decision. And when I'm writing, it is a bit unfortunate. Normally, I don't use this type of term, but you see, it is a bit unfortunate to see that previously indicated issues have not been resolved even after the third cycle of revision of the manuscript. Now you see, the first cycle, then second cycle, then third cycle. So after third cycle, it is my fourth time I'm handling this paper. I have given them opportunity once, second, and third time. Reviewer 2, in his confidential remark, has indicated it is found that authors have not included in the manuscript the descriptions of 4, 5, 7, which I had raised the issues, which I have clarified in the report only. A query of the associate editor has not also been properly addressed. That means what I noted, they ignored it. The reply to A's query number 2, something is there, is insignificant and not technically sound. So I am also not satisfied. The manuscript, therefore, is not qualified for acceptance. The authors may improve the quality by addressing the above mentioned concerns and resubmit referring to the present paper ID. You see, I'm always in support of the authors. Even after so much disappointment from my side, I am giving them opportunity to resubmit this paper. So, as an author, I always advise you, request you, you should not ignore any comment of the reviewer, and you should consider all reviewers of equal stature, and they're your friends and they are knowledgeable persons in most of the cases. So don't take it very lightly. One caution for you. This happened very recently, and based on that, I am giving you one alarm. You should not receive, I don't want any of us receives this type of mail from the editor-in-chief. It is very unfortunate, and I was so shocked seeing this one. But I had nothing to do. I was handling this paper. I recommended acceptance. The paper was accepted, and after acceptance, I'm showing some excerpt from this letter. It is written by editor-in-chief with a copy to me. I regret to inform you that the acceptance decision on your manuscript was reversed due to multiple violations of IEEE editorial policy about authorship. The cover letter of the final file, there are a lot of this thing. So it is not only IEEE editorial policy, it is most of the journals, they have the identical editorial policy. So the editorial policy should not be violated. So you should be careful about what you are doing, knowingly or unknowingly. If it is unknowingly, still people will understand, you can argue, but knowingly never do this thing. I'm trying to make it elaborate. It is one article of IEEE policy. I'm trying to clarify what happened in this paper. Once the list and order of authors, please look at the term order of authors, that is not only the authors, the order of authors has been established. Once the list or the order of authors has been established, the list and order of authors should not be altered without permission of all living authors of the article. So there are two aspects. You proceed. Change in authors list is considered rare. Really, it is rare. And I did not notice, editor-in-chief did not notice, but it was noticed when it was processed in the final processing. Probably it is in the publication department, because it was overlooked by both associate editor, that is I did not notice it, editor-in-chief did not notice it, but it was finally checked and noticed by the publication department. Now we see what are different levels of checking. So it is rare and exceptional, and the decision to allow such changes rests with the editor. Actually, whenever you submit a paper with a number of authors and their positions, that is order, first author, second author, third author, after that, you are not allowed to do any kind of change in this. And if it is so, if you're willing to do, you need to take prior permission from the editor and with proper justification. And not only that, before that, you need to take permission from all the living authors or all the authors. There are a few more important points. I have taken only the relevant points for you. In the case of articles with multiple authors, a corresponding author must be designated as having responsibility for overseeing the publication process and ensuring the integrity of the final document. That means corresponding author has the sole responsibility. So other authors will not be accused. So corresponding authors should be very careful in knowing the editorial policies, including as co-authors all persons appropriate and none inappropriate. Obtaining from all co-authors their assent to be designated as such, as well as their approval of the final version of the article as accepted for publication. That means normally we do not do this thing. Hopefully you do understand what is that. That in every cycle of revision, in every cycle of submission or resubmission, your all co-authors should be intimated, not only intimated, the final document should be shared with all of them so that no one can say one day that I did not know that, or I do not agree with the statements in the manuscript. So co-authors, all co-authors should be properly informed before you submit, before you withdraw, or before you do any kind of revision. If an article is revised and resubmitted, yes, I already mentioned this one. The co-author should be asked by the corresponding author. Yeah. So without keeping your co-authors, without letting them know what you are going to do, it is a kind of unacceptable thing from the IEEE, as per IEEE or any kind of editorial norm. There is one more point, that co-authors added to any time during the review process or when the final version of the article is submitted for publication shall satisfy the requirements of authorship. It is just the legal points. The final thing is that any kind of change should be notified and it should be with proper approval from the editor. Without any proper permission, you cannot do any change in your authorship or author's list, their order, etc., etc. So I have nothing to say. I have some remarks, final remarks, that when you are encouraged, when you are trying to publish your paper in top journals of very high impact, or it is IEEE journal, IEEE transactions, this is not a hard task. So the main clue or main important point is that you read papers of original researchers. That is the best way of learning. More you read, more you learn. And That is reading and follow and learning. That is the best way I already mentioned. And the third point is important, that is you develop your own style. After you write 10 papers successfully, then from the 11th or 12th paper, your effort, your toil will be gradually it will be minimized. Automatically, you will see, automatically you can write a good paper for a good journal. So once you develop your style, then we will not face any further trouble. And nowadays it is one bad practice for all of us, the copy and paste, but never do this thing. Whenever you are writing anything, you write on your own. Never do this thing, the copy and paste from your own work or previous work, or from conference paper to journal paper to conference paper. So once you do this, one day you will find that you are getting some kind of notification and you will be charged under plagiarism. And when I was contacted from your institute, so they are asking that whether I'm interested to tell about the plagiarism or not. I told that I'm not experienced enough because I never do this practice. I never find, I don't understand how does it happen. So I guess it is the only one source, probable source. There's unknowingly, and if it is done knowingly, then there are n number of ways that you can do it. But even from your own work, you should not copy and paste. Whenever you write in free mind. And if you have passion, definitely. Without passion, you cannot survive in this field of research. Writing a paper is really very easy and very exciting. And it is mostly exciting when you'll find that your paper has been accepted and finally it is published and it is appreciated by your peer group. So consider the reviewers. That is my reputation. But consider the reviewers your friends. So do you have any other question?
Good evening, sir. Sir, I have one question, sir. Actually,
Please.
Sir, actually, this is one experience I want to ask your advice. That is, I had submitted one journal paper to one journal, but it is after 1 year. 1 year has passed, but I have not received any review. So I have written a withdrawal letter to the editor. But it is 1 week has passed, but I have not received any response from them. So what should I do now?
Just a minute. I cannot follow. Just a minute. That is the problem of Zoom. Just 1 minute. Can you see my slide? It is shared or unshared?
No, it is unshared, sir.
It is unshared. Okay. So, can you see me on your screen?
Yes, sir.
But I cannot. That is the problem. I am trying to figure out how I can. No. Okay. No, still it is.
Sir, actually, my
Can you help me, because I want to resolve this problem. Whenever I use Zoom, it is either still. I don't know what it is. Just a minute. Let me see. No. Amitabh Ghosh, I'm seeing this name.
Sir.
So you are probably talking, right?
Yes, sir.
Then how can I go to the screen? I cannot see the screen. Now I can see myself, but not you.
Sir, actually, my video is off, sir.
Okay, but still, I cannot see the whole screen.
Sir, do the stop sharing and then share again.
Oh, I
Stop
already did it. Anyway, so Amitabh Ghosh, yeah, your question please. That you submitted a paper to a journal, but you did not receive any review.
Yes, sir. It is 1 year has passed. So I had written a withdrawal letter to the editor, but it is 1 week has passed. So they have not yet given me anything. It's replied to anything, sir. So what should I do now?
Can I ask you a question? If you want, you can. If you are free, so you can disclose or you cannot. What journal it is?
Sir, it is sir IET, sir. Institute of Engineering and Technology.
I cannot comment. So normally the top level journals, they have their own mechanism, and I never have seen this type of thing. It may be delayed. Normally, I'm telling you, in case of IEEE, it varies from journal to journal. Typical time for getting your review report, if it is later, it is 4 weeks to 5 weeks. If it is transactions, typically 8 weeks. Sometimes it goes up to 10 weeks, 10, 11 weeks sometimes. And if it is ultimately reviewed and accepted finally, how many months? 3 to 4 months maximum. Maximum 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
If it is not multiple time reviewed, if it is reviewed for 3 times, 4 times, depending on the associate editor, yes, 4 months. I think 4 months is more than sufficient. So something happened, I think so.
Okay. So, sir, shall I write to the editor once more that please withdraw it? They are not yet.
Yeah, if it is, is it possible for you to just pick up your phone and call them that what's happening? Better to talk over phone.
Okay, sir.
Because you're not getting response from him or her, so that's why I'm suggesting it.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you, sir.
Any question? Any question?
Sir, there is a question in the chat box. Gunjan sir, if you can unmute yourself and ask your question to sir directly.
Better. Anyone can ask question.
Gunjan sir, are you here?
Hello.
Yes, please.
Hello. Very good evening, sir. Very first, my sincere thanks for a wonderful guidance and the FDP talk that, sir, you have delivered. Sir, my one question is.
It is not a talk. It is not a talk. It is just my own experience I'm sharing with you.
That's why, sir, connect with the real life always make interesting. So
yes,
that's
good.
So, sir, my one quick question is that suppose there is a comment that improve graphical abstract. So what is expected to do in that segment? Suppose we are presenting graphical abstract. So if there is, I'm just giving that comment is improve graphical abstract. So what one is supposed to handle this?
I cannot follow few of your words. Can you please repeat it?
Actually, sir, my voice is total down. Sir, if suppose there is a comment,
yes,
improve graphical abstract, improve graphical abstract. So what is your suggestion? How to handle this?
What abstract? Graphical?
Yes, sir, graphical abstract.
What's that?
So in the paper, they have asked for a graphical abstract submission 2. Graphical abstract submission 2.
I cannot follow your. There is some abstract in the
graphical abstract, sir. Graphical.
What's that? I never used this term, graphical abstract.
Actually, sir, in fact, it's a Springer only. In a Springer, they are in few journals. They are asking for a graphical abstract. No onward. Just to improve the readers' visibility and paper visibility and all.
Oh, that means the abstract. It is graphical abstract. Means what's the length of this abstract? Can you tell me?
Sir, it's not the same graphical. They are saying your paper must be in the pictorial forms. It's not like a language form. it must be in the pictorial forms.
They want like that
Yes, sir.
without bearing any text.
Uh, only few is a lot.
Okay. Like a poster.
Yes, you can say like
Yeah,
this. Yes,
right,
yes,
okay.
you can say like this.
I have no first-hand experience. I cannot tell.
So what I have done, in fact, it is my real case only. Actually, I've used my result discussion and all initially. I'm first time I'm getting such this handle situation. I'm not able to handle
something on this.
They have mentioned improve your graphical abstract, and I have used the result and other few parts from my papers.
Am I audible?
The graphical abstract.
Yes.
Gunjan sir, may I comment something on
Yes.
this?
Sure, sir.
This is Ornab Bosu from BSH department.
Sure.
Sir, in some of the Elsevier journals also like Physica E, they used to have graphical abstract what you are saying. It means that one of the important graphical result you need to give there in the abstract along with the writings. Okay. I also have 3 papers in Physica E on that particular journal. They used to have it in the graphical.
Good. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. But is it limited to only one or multiple?
Only one, sir.
Okay.
What
So,
is the
abstract
important
should be there.
graph
So
that I wish to give there?
Yeah, I
as the
understand.
important
I
finding.
understand. I understand means when you are writing the text, along with that, one significant result in the form of graph, just you include. But it is not going to paper. It is for probably online advertisement, publication, etc., etc.
Exactly, sir. Myself,
you, sir.
Pramod Mukherjee. I have also faced this thing, graphical abstract, in computer communication Elsevier journal. So they are also asking for this some part of the major part of the work that you can represent as a graphical form and
Good.
along with some.
I understand. I have a question. You are talking about the journal, and is the journal open access? No,
sir.
No,
Sir.
exactly.
No.
Exactly. It is a business policy. Okay. Because I guess it is business policy because only abstract may not be sufficient to attract other readers. So it is just to tempt them. So they get tempted and they'll download it.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Open access means open access, so you can see everything. So here you are just telling the abstract along with one result.
Yes.
Yeah, it's advertising.
Thank you, sir.
So we have 5 more minutes in hand. So if you are interested, you please feel free to ask. Could you correlate my experience with yours if you already have tried publishing? Okay, so if not, so are you going to close this session?
If you have any question, audience, you please ask, sir.
Sir, my last question, if it is allowed, then I will go ahead. Gunjan here only. Hello.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. Sir, one thing, suppose they are asking to validate the result. Sometimes in the simulation field, they are asking to validate, means comment is to validate your result. And if validation is from the practical life is a little bit difficult, then in that case, how to handle such kind of validation part? Anything that you can say, sir?
any scientific document, when you are going to present or propose, it has to be validated. But there are few works, definitely a few great works in the world without any validation, but just kind of proposition. But when, so forget about the science, and you are now sitting in 2021, and you are generating some results, especially in engineering domain. So how do you expect that it will be accepted without any question or without questioning its validation from real life validation or from experimental validation? How do you do it? And I don't think in today's world, any work without validation will be acceptable. Either in case of marginal validation, sorry, it is terminal case of validation, marginal case of validation. That means you are going to propose something which will merge with one known structure for a limiting value. So by this way, you can verify and test the results that your proposition or your projection, it is validated over certain band of parameters, maybe temperature, maybe pressure, maybe frequency, so whatever it be, it depends. So complete validation may not be possible. You may not have that experimental setup, practical data, practical application, but at least at certain domains, in certain cases, so your result or your prediction should satisfy something which is in reality. You are asking the question, but is it true that you publish something without validation, or any of you already did?
No, sir.
Without
Validation was, yes, you are correct, sir. Validation was there,
Yes.
but they are asking to take the same setup with the experimental data and
Good.
put the
I
instrument
understand.
in the
I
field,
understand. It
put
is
the instrument in the field, and then validate the result. I have done with the validation with the standard available, and also the in line with the earlier publication done with similar type of work. So this two validation was there in the paper, but their comment was you put in the instrument in the fields and then try to validate your outcome, that what you have reported in the paper.
I understand. It is a common feature. Then what we do, we write to, politely we request the reviewer for his or her consideration, because we are not supported with this type of instrument or instrument capable of measuring what he or she is suggesting. So this type of your availability or your shortcomings, you need to clarify and you need to request to consider this. Okay.
Okay, sir.
It happens because you don't know. Your reviewer is sitting in one very sophisticated laboratory, and he or she cannot understand that what kind of limitations, what kind of shortcomings you do have. So you need to write in that way. And I agree with you. For that reason, many of our Indian researchers, without having sufficient validation possibility or experimental setup, we cannot publish or fail to publish, even if we do have our good ideas, but we cannot do measurements.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank
So
you.
then you need to request him. And normally the reviewers, they're very considerate. They understand what's your limitation, and they agree. They agree, or they give the opportunity.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we have crossed our time limit.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your talk. Not talk, we can say it's a very interactive session, and we can, actually come to know about the actual reality and how we can write the rebuttal or how we can accept the reviewers' points and we can implement it in our research. Thank you very much, sir.
Excellent. So wish you all the best. You fight with reviewer, and
Yes, sir.
definitely you will be successful.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, sir. Shumanto, sir?
Yes, sir. Also, no, just a minute.
Okay.
Is the second talk going to start straight away? Good evening, Shumanta sir.
Hello. Yes, sir.
Is the second talk going to start
second
straight
talk is
away?
going-
Yes,
second.
sir.
We are going to start straight away
Okay, thank you
in
very
like
much.
couple of minutes.
Thank you very much.
Afternoon and
Good evening, Bob.
how are you? Okay, so I'm just about to launch, and there we go. And of course, technical difficulties are always part of the research. So here we go. Okay, can you see my slides?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. Your screen is visible, sir. And
Okay,
very good morning to you, sir.
yeah, thank you very much, and good evening.
It's night here.
Okay.
Okay. sir.
All right, my apologies for there's a little bit of communication in the background. So good morning, mighty good morning from Vancouver. And as expected,
Uh,
I see a little bit of talk at the back, so I'm going to assume they'll slow it down. Wow, what a crowd, 195 attendees. To make the presentation a little bit interesting, what I've done is I've looked at the research methods, some of the innovation, and what are the opportunities in Canada to collaborate. And I think
Unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself.
there's a lot of background noise.
Unmute yourself.
Somebody is talking. Please unmute yourself.
Please unmute, all of you. Please unmute. It's very disturbing. All of you unmute
Okay.
yourself.
So welcome to the presentation.
Yes, sir.
And what I will talk about is top 20 projects that are going on right now. The case studies were put in. You need written consent. So I'll discuss the overview. So this is the research definition. Is a scientific approach to answering questions. All right, guys, there's a lot of background noise that's gonna interrupt you a little bit. So I'm also gonna focus on IEEE, where our region 10, which is your region, is very active.
Kindly remove the person from whom
Please,
the background is
everyone,
coming.
please mute yourself.
Okay, carrying right along. So
Yes,
some of the
Bob, please
methods.
carry on.
Okay, what is it? What is a research method? It's an art of scientific investigation and some people call it systemized. Now, again, I'm not going to read the entire slides on their own. I will send a copy of this for the audience, for they can share and provide feedback. So research, what do we talk about? Is a systemized effort to gain new knowledge. Original addition to the available knowledge contributes to its, this is the key, further advancement. Okay. I'll look at 5 different models, 5 different types of research people do, and I'll have a couple of examples more specifically on how our colleague and friend sold Hotmail. We're talking all the way back to 1998. So research, in summary, is a creative and systematic work undertaken to increase the stock of knowledge. It involves collection, organization, and analysis of information to increase understanding. Okay, there's a little bit of a chat. I'm not sure if I should answer that or not, but okay. So people are sharing their emails, and that's fantastic. So I'll put that down. Involves collection, organization, analysis of information to increase understanding of a topic. So at the end, what is our goal? Our goal is to find solutions to a problem. Okay, there may be one solution, there may be multiple solutions. Okay, so moving right along. Another definition from Oxford's dictionary says a careful. Now note the word careful. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Investigation of inquiry, especially through search for new facts in any branch of knowledge.
Hello,
So-
Professor Bob, sir. Just I want to
Hello.
introduce. I want to give you 2 minutes time. That is, I want to introduce you with all the
Oh,
participants. Yes, I
sure.
could not. Yeah. Actually, we are really privileged and thankful to have with us today Professor Dr. Bob Gill today as the speaker of this session. Professor Bob Gill is a telecommunications and networks expert in the wireless and wired networks. His expertise extends to satellite communications, optical networking, and microwave, radio, and terrestrial communications. Great affinity he has for electromagnetism and its multidisciplinary applications. Other interests involve wearable technologies, biomedical sensors, and cooperative and cognitive and ad hoc networks. Professor Gill worked at IBM Toronto Lab Operations, now called Celestica, and was a part of a team developing diagnostic modules for testing ASICs in REX. Professor Gill is currently working at British Columbia Institute of Technology. His specialties include telecommunications and high-speed networks, wireless in biomedical and cognitive sensors, optical communications, and IoT. Now, I, Sumanta Chakraborty, on behalf of our institution, would like to welcome Professor Dr. Gill to be kind enough to guide us through today's program. So now over to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for a kind set of words. I really appreciate it. We've had I must say, we've had a very strong, long-term relationship with IEM Con. It goes over a decade. And I think it has done nothing but grown in collaboration and understanding. And I almost feel like I'm part of the family at IEM Con. So greatly appreciate the introduction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And and participants, if you have any question, you can put your questions in the chat box, and please be muted right now for the time being. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so just quickly, just rehash. That's what I'm going to talk about. I'm very active in the IEEE for the last 31 years. I currently serve as Western Canada Chair all the way from Winnipeg to the Pacific Ocean. Okay. And these are the regions, and I think our colleagues fall in Region 10. Although Satyajit is a globetrotter, I think he falls in every other region across the planet. So we'll talk about what is research. I've already gone through that, and a careful investigation according to the definition in a dictionary. But that being said, it is at the end of the day, it is applicable to a batch of knowledge. It's not limited to the electronics group in general. So my examples will involve the biomedical, the social sciences, and some focus on the IEEE, of course. And instead of giving you some case studies, I brought in the actual cases the cases, I will give you a list. To get the details, individuals can contact me. I think I put my email up front, so let me just take you back down there. So this is my email. Feel free to send me an email and I'll be happy to collaborate and work with you. And I also brought in some information from research in Canada, all the way from the innovation team down to the bottom where, you know, the instructors and professors live. Okay, what is the objective? Are we learning new insights into a phenomena? Is that it? Or can we change things? Can we modify things? Can we make things better? Okay, so we'll look at that. We'll look at the hypotheses, which are sort of, what should I call it? Those are thoughts. Those are possible solutions. To examine the hypothesis of a causal relationship between two variables. You know, can we use this product that we created for other purposes? So thinking outside the box, that's how my presentation is going to be. Otherwise, if I just use the theoretical stuff, it'll be boring, and out of the 195 people, 197 will go to sleep. Okay, so let's move forward to this. Research methods that researchers adopt for conducting research studies. And how do you do it? Where do you start? How do you start? A lot to do with the mentors as well. Presently, I'm serving as a mentor on 8 different projects between Simon Fraser, UBC here, and BCIT. Research methodology is a path in which research problems are solved in some kind of systematically. You have to follow some kind of a guideline. You can't just say, oh, I invented something and let's start using it. Well, it needs to go through proper testing. It needs to go through Canadian Standards Association, specifically, I can speak of, where things may catch fire. We recently had a company called Instec, you probably heard of, Instec, that makes measurement devices such as oscilloscopes, signal processing units, signal analyzers, and power supplies. So they came in to do a demo on Instec. I can't tell you the model because I'll be breaching a trust factor, but their details were in reports. They brought in to do a demo of a very new and very inexpensive power supply. So everybody was excited. So we had 32 people in our group trying to look at this brand new supply they had. It was a single board inside, which was driven by the software. So there were opportunities to sort of drive it beyond its capabilities. So what happens? In about 30 seconds, it was turned on, and it caught fire. So there was an example of shutting down the entire line. So did they do proper research? No, the research was on the marketing side. They wanted to produce a product that they can take over the market. So that went down in about 30 seconds. But things can go wrong. And usually, like they say, Murphy's Law, if anything you can think that can go wrong, it definitely will go wrong. And I've seen many of these, so I've got scars to prove when things burn out. So it is the science of studying how research is conducted scientifically. Okay, so, okay, what is the significance of the research? All progress is born of inquiry. You know, little kids, when they talk, I remember my kids, they're asking why, how, why do we do this? Although as a parent, you can't answer everything, but it certainly is an example of born of inquiry. So people ask questions, and just from the question itself, it provides lots of ideas. So research inculcates scientific and inductive thinking and promotes the development of logical habits of thinking and organization. Those are big chunks of words. All essentially means is that you need to think, deduction, induction, and probably a combination of multiple thoughts, how you can sort of collaborate and come up with the answer to a problem that you may have. Types of research: qualitative, quantitative, and some combination of both. Okay, so who defines the word qualitative? Well, it's you. what are the how deep is the research involved? Nowadays, IoT and 5G are sort of the hottest buzzwords. It used to be big data, but that kind of died out a little bit when they defined big data was a pile of data in a terabyte SSD or something. And then became the analytics, data analytics. Well, that's a slightly, like, I don't want to downplay this, but that is a enhanced qualitative word for doing analysis, statistical analysis, and extracting information. I am sure some of you have heard of IBM being on top of this. They have a computer called Watson, where billions of data has been punched in, and many universities, industry, of course, is collaborating to be able to identify medical diseases and possible solutions to those. So once again, it all depends on the quality of data, but it also depends on quantity of data. Would it be okay if you had 100,000 pieces of data, or would it be worth better if you had 1 billion points of data? So it's a combination of both. I don't think you can do one without the other, right? The quality is dependent on quantity and how your algorithms are actually doing your final research. It goes back to the foundation of programming. I'm sure all of you have fond memories of undergraduate when you're doing if then else versus case statements. Which one is faster? Which one is much more efficient? Okay. So we can go into a deeper discussion at a later time. Okay, so analytical side of things. Qualitative research refers to the use of non-numerical observation, and it'll answer the question, why? Then, while qualitative methods can be counted or converted into numerical form, and that addresses the word how. Okay, if you don't have any data, you really don't have any solution. Otherwise, you're just guessing. And later on, I'm going to talk about this thing called impact factor. I think people are so crazy about it. I get on average about three emails a week. People wanting to write, collaborate, use names, and so on. It's because of the impact factor. And pretty soon, I'll give you a one-pager history of where it all came from and what does it actually mean. Right? Are we doing it for the good of humanity, or are we doing it for the good of, hey, it might turn into a dollar amount later on, or should it be both? Right? Okay, the analytical side of things would be a cohort study, case control study, and experimental would be randomized trials. You'll do 5,000 trials that take an average. And then descriptive would be case report, case series, and cross-sectional. Okay, so again, I'll just highlight the good research is systematic, it's logical, and it's empirical. Anybody wants to comment on the word empirical? It's based on, you guys remember in undergraduate, you took 1,000 pieces of data and the actual data and plotted a curve and then found what was the trend. What was the trend of that at that time? That empirical is that some of the empirical numbers may change later, but the general trend remains the same, right? So good research is replicable. So that means you've gone through deeper side of things, and if you apply deeper studies, that is the way to go. Okay, process itself. Well, first of all, you have to define the problem. So what I'm going to do is, instead of case studies, later on there's a slide that shows top 10 things we're looking at. I don't know how many I copied, but I copied our current projects in progress. Review the concepts and the theories, previous research findings. Did anybody do anything similar before? Obviously they did, right? So that's how you compare. Formulate hypotheses and come up with some ideas, because this is where these are the areas that would justify your funding from the government and or other collaboration. Then you go into research, including some of the sample designs, depending on the type of research you're doing, right? Let me move this item to the side. And then, of course, this is the guts of the whole research, collecting data, execution and collecting tons and tons of data, and then find anomalies. As an example, many of you are into computing sciences and so on, or pretty much all of you. Now, when you do a pinging, if you type in ping at 8 o'clock in the morning, then you ping again 9 o'clock in the morning. As some of you are really deeper into it, you'll do path ping at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 5 p.m. And what happens? Your RTT, your return transient time, is completely different. Well, how do you react to the system? Okay, I'm going into the, I think it's called Vegas protocol for TCP/IP that does automatic adjustment and so on. So how did they think about this? That the system should react in a blink. Why should it react? Otherwise, the system will go down. It'll collapse. Our YouTube videos and our Zoom videos are an example of that. So I was last night. I was in another meeting where I had two computers going side by side, but I was in a closed environment. Guess what happened? Everything went down the tube. So both of the systems collapsed. So I learned that I have to find one computer working at 2.4 gigahertz, the other one working at 5.8 gigahertz. So there's lesser interference. And of course, one was running a lot of compressed videos and so on. So analyze data. Well, this is number 5, collection of data. This is where you find out, are there anomalies? Are there some strange activity, some strange data? If the data is really, really smooth, I don't know, I begin to wonder, is life that perfect? And my experience has been it's not perfect at all. Something will go wrong and we need to be prepared for it. Now look at what's going on in the COVID research. They have beaten it to death to a certain degree, the research portion. And to be able to have this COVID vaccination available for public, they can't just do it. If you guys remember, their past president was pushing people to sign off and just make it available. We're all in the scientific world. We just can't do that because you're playing with the lives of general public. So you must and absolutely confirm the results, because you're sort of like a I don't want to use the word playing God, but it's very close to it. We are playing God. We're providing vaccination to public so they can survive or they can get better. So you have to go through proper testing of the hypotheses. And of course, interpret and report. There needs to be a sort of a conclusive report at the end. What does it do? Does it actually do what it was supposed to do? And there has been anomalies where people got sick. Very few people got sick. I read some of the reports. Did these people get sick because of maybe they ate something just before that was reactive, or was it something else? So combination of things. So it has to be very well taken care of. And I'm sure you've heard of the name Dr. Fauci. They're very kind, very thorough. He's been in that position for over 3 decades, so he must be doing something right. So there's an example of research process on steroids. Okay, so here we go, defining the problem. So here I was looking at each of these blocks, and I'll just look at it in a little bit more detail, but I won't take too much of your time in here. And I will make this presentation available for download, and I'll pass it on to our friends at IEMCon. The first is some difficulty which a researcher experiences in context of either a theoretical or practical situation and wants to obtain a solution for the same. Problem undertaken for study must be carefully selected. Okay, ask yourself, where do your interests lie in this? Are you doing it for humanity, or are you doing it for the continuation of your job, or is it or what is it? Okay, so not having any solution is a good solution. You have to have the solution. And if you have a solution first, then you fine tune it, test it, and then you'll eventually reach to the solution. And I recall anytime we go out to conferences, we provide our presentation. There are many other ideas from many other people from all over the world that are willing to collaborate with you. Okay, and please cash in on those ideas. Okay, defining the. Let me just take you back to an example. When I was doing my grad studies, I wrote a code that would analyze 40 years of data, and it took 2.5 hours to compile. I'm serious. Those are the days of 486 DX2 66 megahertz. So then one of the gentlemen in my area said, "Hey, why don't you use malloc?" And I'm going, "What's a malloc?" I only knew the word mallet. Mallet was a hammer, and I go, "What is he talking about?" So anyhow, this was a major problem for the company that I was working for, BC Hydro at that time. So they were unable to predict data even for the next week, next month, and so on. So malloc was memory allocation, dynamic memory allocation process, an algorithm that I was introduced to. And what did I do? I implemented it, and I kid you not, the compilation of the program that I wrote went down from 2 hours to compile to 15 seconds because C is portable, so I ended up using it on an older alpha machine that had quad processors. We're talking many years ago. So my point being, when you define the research, look for collaboration. If anybody's willing to help, take their help. Okay, so defining subject which is overdone should not be normally chosen. Okay, so as an example, a subject that's overdone, we don't need another browser. All right, guys, we've got enough browsers. Can anybody tell me what's the well, I'll just name a few. You've got Chrome, you've got Opera, you've got Explorer, you've got the Edge. Does anybody have any comment about? I don't want to ditch any companies, but this is something that's been used fairly commonly. How many of you actually use Explorer? Does anybody know a good comment about Explorer? Anyone? Okay, I see silent. Okay, so I see somebody saying something that. Okay, you did. Do you not now? Dr. Kumar said I did. No. Okay. Okay. Here's the catch with Explorer. They say it is the best browser. It is the best browser to download other browsers. Okay. So that's very commonly used. But we don't. If anybody's working on a new browser, please. There's no need. Unless you're doing something else, so that we don't know. Yeah, it is forced, but you can go into the settings, Dr. Kumar, and then you can undo it. So we found a way. There's a will, there's a way. Okay. Okay. Subject selected for research should be familiar and feasible, so that related research material or sources of research are within your reach. For example, my area does not include how should I say, medical research of bio, flesh, and so on, and muscles and nerves and so on. But I found that the first meeting, the team members included from biomedical electronics, small signals, automation, people with psychological background or psychology background. Because every time we do something, it has an impact on humanity in general. So we have to look at every possible angle. We can't just inject people with the tools that we've invented. Okay, so moving on. So I'll accelerate a little bit. Importance of the subject, qualification, training as a research, cost involved, the time factor, and are a few of the criteria, okay, to be considered. Well, you should also be well equipped in terms of background to carry out the research. Okay? The study must fall within a budget of that you can afford. And if the field of inquiry is relatively new and does not have available set of well-developed techniques, brief feasibility study must be always undertaken first. Okay, So don't just jump into it raw, but it all depends on your situation, of course. Problem, you know, there's a saying, if you can read a problem and understand the problem, the answers will begin to come to you based on your knowledge. Okay, so one of the few things you need to involve is statement of the problem in a general way, understanding the nature of the problem, surveying the available literature. We're going to talk about that. And I use a term when I do a survey of the literature. And I'll talk about that when we talk about the survey a little bit later. Thinking about the ideas through discussions and rephrasing the research problem in a working proposition. So it is a solvable problem. Yeah, no, one of the problems, you know, about your vehicles and so on. How many of you have electric cars? Well, it's cool. It's cool to have it. But I did a lot of research in electromagnetic fields. I just have this eerie feeling that one of these days, you know, something is going to come down the pipe and say the people that are driving electric cars have trouble conceiving. So because we know many cases through our World Health Organization that electromagnetic field, it actually changes the orientation of corpuscles and so on. So, but in any case, the more knowledge you have, the better it is. And the bigger team you have that will provide your feedback. And when I say the word feedback, only people that are concerned about the problem will provide you honest, sincere feedback. If anybody is giving you feedback in the best interest of collaborating and making more money, you have to look at it in a different way. Okay, literature review. Now, one of the key things I would like you to remember is don't go out of control. When do you stop? Okay, so find a way to narrow your research, which will assist in refining the statement, strengthen the argument of selection of a research topic. So you can also justify that there is an actual problem. Right now, you've got everybody doing projects on research project using Arduinos. Arduinos have been beaten to death already. So perhaps it's time to come up with your own. And I'll show you some of the examples, just a one-liner on the topics we're working on. Okay, here's another graphical view of literature review. What are the major issues? Are there gaps in the knowledge? How can I bridge the gap? Well, bridging the gap does not mean read more material. It could also mean, and then normally it also means is that you bring in people that actually have that knowledge. There's an old saying that there are two ways to succeed in life. Know everything about everything. I definitely don't know everything. What I know is I would like to share. So one approach, know everything about everything. The second approach is know enough people who know everything, who are experts in the field. That's the only way. Otherwise, you will not see a different sort of view until other experts are part of the team. What directions do you want to go into? Whether the research question already has been solved by somebody else. Okay, maybe you want to collaborate with them to make sure that your answer can also be solved. And then look at the chronological development of knowledge in that particular problem, right? So theories, concept, ideas, and known subjects. Okay, so. Okay, sources would be truckload of sources. There's a lot of resources. And has anybody lately put in a document search in IEEE? Okay, so on the internet, everybody believes the internet. Well, the internet said so. Have you heard of the election last year in US? So there's a lot of false information or misinformation or disinformation. There are many names to this. So be very, very careful. Okay. So finding too much, you know, type in somebody's name, and I was looking at, I was trying to get a picture of IEMCon, and wow, there's like several million hits. So I'm not sure which one is the right one. So I found a picture a memory of the past, and I will show you at the end how I found it. Or you're not getting the right information. How many of you actually know when you do the Google search, there are certain switches you can turn on that will narrow down the research from this wide to very narrow, that exactly what you're looking for in a PDF or a PowerPoint or a code or an algorithm or a Python file or something, right? So take through, all the notes, look for references and papers. So that's very important. Look for the citations. Look for citations. They're very important. Okay? Identify those authors, and there may be an opportunity to collaborate with those authors. All right, libraries. IEEE publishes nearly a third of world's technical literature. I cannot emphasize enough. I recently attended GlobeCom in Hawaii. There were 2,200 delegates and their partners. It was an amazing conference. One of the biggest contributors was Huawei, and what has entailed after that was a sad story, but their engineers contributed enormously to the IEEE. So library, go to your, make collaborations, and if you can afford, subscribe to IEEE Digital Library. And we here in Western Canada, or all across Canada, if you're part of an alumni, if you're an alumni of a university, universities all have access to digital library. It'll certainly help you, but just remember, it will overwhelm you. You have so much information. You've got terabytes and petabytes of information coming your way. And so even in some cases, zettabytes of information coming your way. Make sure your brain's processor is ready to take on that information, okay? So don't go into overload. So here's another alert to everybody. I put it in red at the bottom. You get, indexing. Well, indexes is important. IEEE Explore. You go down low at the bottom, you've got these journals asking you, hey, hello, Mr. XYZ. And they send their email very nicely to all the researchers. How do they know the researchers? Well, our names are freely available. If you've written one paper, that's it. Okay. We feel good when people send us all these emails, but be very, very careful. These bodies are simply trying to attract people like you and I, and they're predatory publishers. Predatory publishers and predatory journals brag about their how many abstracting and indexing services cover their journals. So check, okay? And most of them are not telling the truth. So I've come across somebody fairly recently asking us to publish one of our papers into their journal. And they told us there was impact factor was, I don't know, 4.32 something. And I'll talk about the impact factor in a moment. Okay, here we go, impact factor. So this summary sits with you as part of the paper, invented way back in 1955, way before many of us were born. So what is that impact factor? It sounds good, right? So if somebody asks you impact factor, next time ask them, hey, what does that mean? Not how much of a punch does it have? That's an impact. No, impact factor is how many people look at it? Is it valuable? They monitor every single journal, and the impact factor will be, is impact factor can go down. So impact factor will be the number of people that actually cite, number of people that actually view this, and they crank up the profile of that particular journal. So you got to be very careful, okay? And the impact factors are not static. They don't stay at the same value. Okay, so you got to be very careful. They can change. All it takes is a couple of bad apples doing something wrong, and we're doomed. I can give you an example. One of my professors, his paper was duplicated and published by a country, a member from the country just north of you guys back home, and it was caught. and that entire research group went downhill. Now it is with the internet, with the stroke of one single evaluation online, companies have gone up and down, right? So, okay, so here's an example. So this is FYI, and this is, look at that, impact factor of 17. So as recently as last week, there's a group from, I won't mention the universities. They're in the state of Punjab. They were asking me to be part of the group, and oh yeah, they were saying, oh, there's an impact factor of 3.5. Well, why do I want 3.5 when I can have an impact factor of 17? Right? There's a little bit of psychology to be played. If your paper is really good, if your research review and invention or whatever it may be, maybe it's an improvement. So I'll look at it a little bit later on. What type of research are you in, and what does it mean? And why not have the highest impact factor? If your paper is really good, let's push it in and justify. Justification is that you have to be present. You need to justify your methods, algorithms in front of a large audience. And then what is the biggest gain out of this? It's not the impact factor. It's not you get more funding. It is the institute reputation stands tall. That's what the impact factor should be looked at. And if you fail, when I say the word you, that includes me. If you fail, well, you know what? You tried very hard, and that will make you stronger. Come back with refining that paper, and away you go. All right. So these are some of the examples that I took just this morning, and so think big. Think of global impact, not just personal impact. Okay, I found this site this morning, and I thought I shared that with you. Who's downloading? When you click on this, it gives you a map. When you move your mouse live, it'll tell you live how many people are downloading stuff at that time. So it's phenomenal. Who's downloading? Well, I guess they call it parted papers and so on. So, okay, working hypothesis. What is the goal there? The goal there is, hey, my method is better than yours. Well, you have to prove it. There's another way of saying the same thing where you don't hurt other people. You say, I think my method solves few more problems than your method. So that statement will look for collaboration rather than hurting people and so on. So be very careful what you say. It's also how you say it. Okay, so hypothesis must be clear, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to read every single line in here. So at the end, the hypothesis must actually explain what it claims to explain, right? As an example, my method will solve problem X, Y, Z. And here's how. Here's my test data, right? So say that. State that very, very clearly. I did this. Don't use the word, this hypothesis may solve this. Perhaps do this. So those careful choice of words will gain you a lot of reputation. Okay, design itself. Well, design is an example of creating a blueprint, creating a flow chart. How, what, when, where, okay? Measurement and analysis of the data is obviously would create the blueprint. Okay, if you don't have data to support, I'm sorry, your hypothesis is more like a conjecture. It's more of a thought. You think it might solve, but no, it doesn't solve. So it has to be supported by hard facts. Okay, research and design here. So this is where I wanted to come in and mention my statement. This is us. This is a typical grad student sitting there, although the student looks very young. So what is the study about? What is being made? Where will I do this? Required data to be found, and how much time period it's going to take. This is called, and I want you to remember this, analysis paralysis. Okay, you're analyzing so much that you're killing your own research. So analyze if it's becoming totally out of control. Focus on some of the good side of the analysis and move forward, because nobody ever is going to be perfect. Nobody that at least I know. Okay, so dependent variables, continuous variables, discrete variables. You have to look at it. Are there variables we're considering that are impacting each other, or one is dependent on the other? So express in certain areas, right? So this is sort of like how should I say, the anatomy of a very basic program. What is it? Are some of the constants really constants? Okay, so examine those, and maybe some people have considered going. It's called thinking outside the box. Now I have to give you an example of thinking outside the box. When I was in, I must share that with you. When I was in China at Tianjin Institute of Technology, we had a major meeting. Our vice president from the group was saying, well, you know how the many of you have traveled in the Western culture. It says we think outside the black box. We don't have black box thinking. So there was a group of about 120 Chinese presidents, vice presidents, and they all started to look under the table. What is this black box he's talking about? Where is it? I don't have one. So that was metaphorical speaking, language, and that triggered a little bit of uproar. And suddenly, our vice president had to stop and try to find out what's going on. They said, well, sir, they don't have that black box you're talking about. So my point being, cultural differences can also be hurdles, but we look at them as opportunities where you learn from each other and so on. So, okay, so looking at the extraneous problems, well, in theory, everything looked good. And when you do the experiment, it turned out that there's a problem. And this happens a lot using MATLAB simulations. Many of you do this, signal processing, and you say, wow, look at the eye diagram, it's fantastic. And then you go out in the field and everything just blows up, okay? That's a confirmation of, experimental error. It happens a lot. I spent a lot of time out in the field at British Columbia Hydro and Power Authority. Even though it was a Hydro and Power Authority, the telecommunications antenna designs was one of the largest infrastructure in our British Columbia. So a study must always be designed so that the effect upon dependent variable is entirely attributed to the independent variables and not some extraneous variable or variables. And sometimes the results are within a certain level of tolerance. It's probably because you neglected to take some other parameters. Okay. So control, again, don't go into analysis paralysis. Restrain some conditions. You cannot satisfy every condition on this planet. Nature, that's why nature is an ongoing challenge, because we just simply cannot understand all possible conditions put forth by nature. Okay, experimental and control groups. So if you want the results, some value of results, don't go into an endless loop, okay, or analysis paralysis. Okay, so and then slowly introduce some of the additional parameters, because you've got a better control and a better treatment of some of the conditions. Okay, exploratory research, descriptive, diagnostic, hypothesis testing. So let's look at it. Now I'm going to go into the second phase of this presentation, which is you've got an idea. So what? What does it do? How many of you are millionaires, multi-millionaires? You've got an idea, you've got a grant, you've got a nice house, but my thinking is all of us academics, we're very poor. We're like cash poor. But hey, if the idea has been achieved, how does the university, what is your relationship with the university in terms of patents and copyrights? How do you make money? Can anybody tell me? I deliberately put Hotmail. Can anybody tell me how much was, well, what is, I think a lot of you have had Hotmail address at one time or another. So did I. And I learned something really, really exciting many years ago. That Hotmail, can anybody tell me how much is Hotmail worth? Anybody? Any thoughts? Or you're like the usual sheep where you just use it, who cares what it's worth? But I'm about to give you a bit of a shock, unless somebody gives me a shock faster. How much, the people that invented Hotmail, how much is it worth?
I think they sold it for.
Okay, they sold it. You're right. So I think that's Satyajit. So I think you know it. So anybody else? Okay.
I'll just take a guess. A few
Okay.
$trillion perhaps. I will be
Okay.
wrong.
Okay.
Few
In
$trillion.
19 no, it's in 1998. Now remember 1998. Oh, where was I? I was working for DC Hydro. 1998. Mr. Bhatia was one of the owners, and Microsoft bought it from Mr. Bhatia and their collaborator for $400 million. Okay, so $400 million. So that's a lot of money. Okay, in those days, that's nowadays that money is like several $billion. Okay, so with a B. So so just imagine that. And I don't know if you know those are micro stations, Sun micro stations. Quite a few Indians were involved in that collaboration as well. So okay, so you can imagine that if your idea is worth that much money, geez, we do it for the fun of it, not for the money of it. But think about your research and idea. What is it worth? So Dr. Chakravarti and the gang from IEMCom, I think you should think out. I think you do think outside the box and see, where do the ideas stick? Can we do a validation of the market? And it doesn't have to be a brand new thing. It can be, well, we've got Hotmail, we've got Yahoo, we've got Mail, we've got Bob's email, we've got Microsoft email, Outlook. There's so many emails. I feel like, I'm eating alphabet soup. So you have to be able to assess and look forward to that side as well. So
We are trying.
Sure. So if you have a good idea, first contact me, Satyajit, okay?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so market validation steps. You've got hypotheses, and of course, reduce the risk, build minimum value, and then your action plan. What do you want to do? How many customers are you going to get? It's like, Dr. Chakrabarti is working on the online institution and online courses. I think sooner or later I will, if I can, I would love to be part of it. I got some ideas, and at the end of the game, it is your idea. What is it that you're offering something different that's going to draw the younger crowd, right? Or the new and upcoming. And when I say the word younger, I don't necessarily mean old people are not young. When I say the word younger, that means young and young at heart. So we're all young at heart. So it's what is this something new that will generate your validation steps? Okay, get out of the comfort zone. Okay, shift your thinking. What do the people want? Is it reliable? It's a differentiator, and people love it, right? Look at the iPhone. iPhone is just going crazy. iPhone 12. How many of you have an iPhone 12 and spent over $2,000? Something pro, blah, blah, blah. Is it just a fashion? I don't know. So everybody has a different value for this, right? Okay, so now customer traction is the new intellectual property. More people want it. You want to keep it as a secret. Okay? So I could have gone into a little bit of intellectual property and patents. A close friend of mine, a couple of my friends, they did a presentation not too long ago, but focus on the customer acquisition. So our research should be aimed at two different angles. One is, has it solved the problem? Is it good for humanity? And how many people are going to use it, right? So there's the change thinking sort of algorithm. Different types of market that you should look at. We're doing a research. Well, what are we doing? Are we looking at a completely different market altogether? Entering an existing market? Recently, I saw somebody trying to sell pop or some kind of a soda drink. Well, have you gone to the market lately? And how do you get into that market as a new sort of a new entity? Okay, so are you resegmenting that market to something else? Right? You look at it and you say there's a niche market. There's a these cell phones as an example. All you do is create a cell phone that has bigger buttons. The elderly can use it. Sold, right? I remember there was a phone from India that came along that was a very cheap phone, and I believe somebody made millions and millions of dollars, and away you went, right? So, or are you creating a completely new market? So you have to think about it. Now, using Satyajit's quest on online learning, all the best. Well, the system just turned out that way, that everybody has to be online, right? So everybody, everybody's on Zoom or WebEx or some of the other Microsoft Teams to be able to go on this new learning opportunities. Okay, so here are different markets. Clone market. Now I've traveled to the country north of us in India, and I tell you, it is interesting. Okay, so you can buy. I had my iPhone with me, and because it was the original Apple iPhone, I was shell shocked when somebody was willing to pay $350. This is in 2008, and they had a phone which was called very similar name, and that was for what, $20. So I sold mine and I bought the other cheap one. It worked like a charm. Now the research market, how does research come into play? Well, they looked at it that iPhones are very, very controlled. They are very restrictive. You can't add another additional memory to it. You can't, it doesn't have a USB port. So they created a phone that looked, feel just like the other phone, had an extra card. You could put multiple SIMs and so on. So cloning, well, as long as you don't breach the copyrights, you're in it. So now you're running into an existing market. But what you produced is a high end. Your research produced a, hey, I can provide better service. So that's, you tap into the existing market. Resegmenting, right? So there's a group of people that want same product, but they can't afford it. Okay, so you resegmented it. Okay. So as an example, have you been to a local store where you can buy something for $50 and then you can buy something exactly the same for $1.25? Well, it tells you what the market is going through. Now you go into cheaper, good enough, can create a new class of product. Innovation never existed before, and be careful about the chasm that does it exist? Does it not exist? So be very careful when you jump into this. But there's opportunities for research in virtually every single facet on this page. Okay, so there's the browsers, right? And when I was in China, we were using Baidu because Explorer just simply won't come up. They just have a hook on it. So it does the same thing. They don't want to pay. They don't want to pay any fee. But it was an opportunity for over 1 billion people to use, and they cashed in on it. Clone market, existing market, resegmenting. So and of course, look at these expensive watches and cameras and so on. This is the camera looks quite old actually, but anyhow, look at the price of that. So is anybody paying that kind of money for a camera? No, nobody's buying these cameras anymore. So resegmenting, everything is on your iPhone. If you got an iPhone, your entire life is in it. So, but there's a danger though. You lose that iPhone, you're panicking, right? So you got to be careful. Okay, so niche, low end, clone, existing, resegmenting. So there are different types that are available. Okay. So the key is that when you have a product that came out of your research, what type of risk did it involve? Risk means something wrong. The companies can go, we use the term belly up. That means they can go into foreclosure and go into selling off and go bankrupt overnight if something bad happens. But generally, we don't let that happen. As part of the research that is important is that we go through the risk analysis before we do anything. And that risk analysis is you have customers, you have a beta testing group for many devices and so on. And away you go. This is what TI does, Texas Instruments. They'll send you some of these prototype boards to the academia to test it out. By the way, if anybody's doing any collaboration with TI, please contact me. I will be happy to help you in collaborating. Over the last 2 decades, we've been able to achieve and actually acquire a lot of freebies. And I must tell you, when I use the word Texas Instrument, you may have heard of the name Dr. Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer and Schaefer, people that wrote the textbook. I had the opportunity to meet Dr. Oppenheimer at a signal processing conference. It was quite a blessing at that time. Okay, so carrying on with MicroType, differentiating between the existing and the new, resegmenting, and where did you get this information from, right? That's also very important. And that goes back to your literature research, right? So you may have come up with a method which is completely unfair advantage over everybody else. Okay, so you have to look at it. Did you repurpose something, or did you solve a problem, or did you solve a problem by repurposing something? Right. So, so you got to look at when establishing a company, when establishing a product, how does your research provide you with an unfair advantage? Okay, the sources themselves. Market versus technology, and you can see you need to make sure that your research provides best bang to the market and the best technology for both. Right? So a few more slides on innovation. The materials you use, variety of these materials, new processes, techniques, fundamental technology, and so on. So again, you look at the technology innovation. Did you have to do a lot of technology innovation, or did you have to do a lot of market innovation? Well, if your research, if nobody wants it, well, then what happens? You're in the academia, just working 8 to 5, doing your lectures and so on. But I think all of you go beyond the call of the duty and are involved in going out, thinking outside the box. Okay, again, looking at the innovation sources. Okay, what do you need? Okay. Do you have access to IEEE, ACM, the Indian journals? I would like to admit openly that I order some of the Indian textbooks online as well, because their way of writing in some of the areas is phenomenal with a lot of examples, and I'm very proud to say that. So, okay, here's the instead of bringing cases, here's a list. I have a list of 150 projects that are going on right now. So here's this. I'm just giving you the one pager to view, and I've got the details on these as well. And if anybody's interested, fire me an email and we'll talk. So looking at a wearable head impact IMU to study sports concussions, right? This is important. This is big money. Okay. So what does it do? Collection of data. What does it do to different types of people, male, female, young at heart, and so on. So here's another one, Drive It, Bike Assist, compact hybrid e-bike system, highly efficient regeneration or charging of the battery, integrated wireless smartphone application control system. So this sounds like a walking, talking, driving bike. So that's an e-bike. So let's just look at IoT smart house presence. Okay. So machine learning for mining equipment condition monitoring. So like I said, I only brought in a set of 24, a novel system for multimedia discovery in Instagram based on hashtag optimization. So you gotta, there's tons of these ideas. Designing a 3D map and flight missions for a passenger drone. Okay, I'll give you an example of what has happened now. Everybody saw the Percy that landed on Mars. some of my students work for this company here in Richmond. And because of their extensive innovation and research, a lot of their cameras from Richmond, BC are on Perseverance. So I had a call from my student that, some of the stuff they learned in our signal processing course, they were very proud, and they were very, they felt very proud, not only for our institute, they felt proud working for the company whose equipment is on board. So think globally. Okay. Research opportunities in Canada. Do you realize that there's a couple of really, actually one of them is really good looking. I don't know if have you seen this guy? Has anybody seen this guy? Okay. So, so this is a blast from the past. So I just thought I'd bring that up. So this is me yesterday. Okay, so anyhow. Okay, so just a tip on how you can collaborate with Canadians. And I'll use myself as an example, if you would. So now this is an example that talks about elephant in the room. There's a meeting of the executives and nobody knows what we're meeting for. This happens a lot. This happens a lot where the scope of research is not even clear. What are we doing? Okay, innovation. This is the definition from Conference Board of Canada. A process through which economic or social value is extracted from knowledge through the creation, diffusion, and transformation of ideas to provide new improved products, services, or processes. So remember, this is research, innovation, and to provide products at the end. Okay, this is our overall structure. Again, you'll have a copy of this. And this is a very loopy kind of a slide. And here are some people that are involved. This gentleman is our Minister of Innovation, Science, and Environmental Development, Mr. Navdeep Bains. So there's truckload of money. You can see everywhere you see, billions of dollars, 3,000 something millions and millions and so on. So there's tons of opportunities that are available when you collaborate. Okay, our Tri-Council is NSERC, Social Sciences and Humanities, and of course the health side as well. So Canada's Granting Council, it was created more than 20 years ago, so it's still functioning in an excellent capacity. Okay, so what are these ones? What are these individual palettes in here? Is Social Sciences and Humanities, Canadian Institute of Health Research, and Center for Inquiry. That's our approach. They've labeled them in a slightly different way, so that would focus on the area of research. Okay, this is the website if you want to go on it, science.gc.ca, and they have staff of about 400 people, discovery, innovation. So you can see how the budget has been laid out as $1.1 billion budget. That's a yearly budget. It's for NSERC only, National Science Engineering Research Council of Canada. Okay, where does the research start? Actually, this slide is what's put forth, but I believe your research begins in schools, discovery grants in universities, strategic partnership with industry, industry-driven programs. What are the problems industry is trying to solve? College and community innovation, right? And these business-led networks, commercialization. So this is where we are. Okay, we want to get here, so you can get a return. Your institute can get a return and be on the map of the planet as one of the top institutes trying to extrapolate their research into a tangible benefit at the end. Okay, 700 companies of all sizes. It's more than that now. So Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. So you can see this employs, as a simple example, I wanted to stay away from electronics or medical or so on, so I pick an example of aerospace industry. So it's got $40 billion in indirect revenues, 227 billion in direct revenues. Okay. So it gives you the scope of opportunities that are available. Okay, flight simulator, landing gear, and aircraft itself, the engines, and so there's there's a very, very diversified product that are available. Okay, so again, typical sizes of aerospace industries and tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 models that are available. And most of the people that I know lower mainland here in BC are tier 1 or tier 2. But that doesn't mean anything. If you don't get any money at all, well, that's sad. But tier 1 is sort of the primary researchers we're going to, where vendors maintain responsibility for providing equipment. Anytime you see a university prof getting involved, they usually have collaboration from a local company. Like right now, I just got an email yesterday of collaboration on 5G infrastructure that TELUS wants to put through into certain academia. So we'll try to help the best we can. Manufacturing side of things, right? NSERC is involved everywhere: Atlantic, Quebec, Ontario, Western, and so just to name a few. R&D industry, you can see a fair chunk of R&D intensity in, our domestic product. Okay, so gross domestic product. Okay, simple example of some of the companies that are listed here in the aerospace. Defining the opportunity, and there's many parts. Okay, so somebody was communicating, but that's okay. So currently benefits from strong partnership with some of the consortium of research and innovation in aerospace. Okay, just as an example. 5 major research partnership. You can see industry-driven, strategic-driven, and training in the industry and colleges and community colleges and so on. So just as an example. So I want to skip this and take you into some of the other opportunities, how we can get various different types of money. Industry, if there's a project that involves the industry, academia, and of course, money will come from NSERC. Loads and loads of money. Well, of course, I don't mean to sound it like easy. There's accountability at the end. If there's some sort of a mess up, I've known a couple of people that their funding got pulled back. Yes. So. Okay, evaluation criteria. You look at the applicant, look at the company, and look at the project itself. So here's one of the grants that are available, up to $25,000. New relationship, 6 months, $25,000 extra in addition to what the payment you're getting. Not a bad idea. Okay, and you can continue owning that. This is in addition to our institute research money as well. So the only drawback, company will own the IP, the intellectual property. Okay. So they look at every 4 to 6 week turnaround, I guess, once you put the application in. Okay, Engage Plus grant. So some of these numbers may have changed, but this is the last one I got a few months ago in terms of this, the content of the slide. Okay, company still owns the IP, Engage Plus grant. Okay, so collaborative R&D. So now we're talking, collaborative. Each dollar cash and each dollar in kind from the company levers up to $2 from NSERC. So if you got, say, $25,000 from TELUS, $25,000 from BC Hydro, well, NSERC will pitch in $50,000. So there's your $100,000. Okay, and projects can go from 1 to 5 years. So applied ARD grants. So up to $75,000, it works out to be $25,000 a year, up to 3 years, and then some of the other options. Industry partners contribute half of the project cost. Okay, this is a memory from the past that I had a picture of. This is Dr. Chakrabarti, the owner. We thank you, and I was delighted and honored to be part of this this lecture series. And I'll open the floor for questions. Thank you very much. And last slide is, this is from, because of their slides, it's a cool place to do research in Canada. So, thank you very much.
A great presentation, Bob. Very nice, very insightful.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your kind comments, and I will send you the actual copy very soon.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay. I see Dr. Chakrabarti is talking, but I think he's muted.
Yeah, Canada is a cool place, but now it's quarantined. I can't go there now.
Well, it's cool and cold right now, so. I think your a senior Dr. Chakrabarti is talking, but he's muted. If you want to ask him to unmute.
Let me tell him. Wait, hang on 1 second.
Okay. Ah, there we go.
Can we print your lecture in the form of a book
Absolutely.
in your name?
Absolutely, I will be happy.
Think about it.
Yeah, sure.
It will be very useful to the research students.
I'll be honored. I will send a copy right away to Satyajit.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. And you've seen
Ajay,
my
I have
email
a
on the
personal question.
Please go ahead.
Can we go to Canada now? Is it safe?
Well,
and will they be quarantine me if I go?
yes, you have to stay for 3 days in a government hotel, government authorized hotel. And then there's 2 weeks of quarantine after that. So.
Oh, that's too difficult a thing.
I know they've made it very expensive.
So I'm canceling the idea of going now.
Yeah, as soon as it's open, you're welcome here anytime. So.
What is your opinion that what do you think this situation will be normalized? How many days or months?
There is a hope. We talked about it at our institute that sometime in summer, they're going to start opening up a few things at a time. So that's my hope. And wish.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for attending. I really appreciate it. It was a great
Your
pleasure
lecture
and
was
honor.
excellent. Your lecture was excellent. And it will be very, very useful to the serious researcher.
Absolutely. As soon as the COVID opens up, I am looking forward to coming out to the institute and meeting people in person.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you, Bob.
Bye. Bye.